everything else. Surely now, Spain have won the World Cup for the first time in history. Messi, you go for goal here. Oh my goodness gracious me! Here's Mbappe! Oh my word! Teenage kicks! The ultimate teenage kick! Entrenamos duro, no fue casualidad. Aiming for Kurtza! Kroos will go for it and score! Montiel.
And now, taking the stage, hosting the world, the business of the FIFA World Cup.
I guess we have some fans.
You want to sit there? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the final panel session of the Hunter Conference 2026. We do appreciate all of you sticking around and making us feel like we're important today. My name is Jonathan Martin. I'm the principal and co-founder of Anfield Hotel Advisors, which is a privately held real estate investment and asset management firm that's based in Boston and in Denver. The Hunter team felt that I was uniquely positioned for this panel today because I am from Limerick, the west coast of Ireland, and today is my national holiday. Woohoo! And we also named our company after the home stadium for my favorite team, which is Liverpool Football Club. And they're a soccer team in England, and I've been a fan for 48 years. So it's hard when I'm only still 25, so I'm not sure how that math works. But I'm thrilled to have this great panel with us today, and we are fully aware that we are the last roadblock between you and the open bar this afternoon to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and also Ludicrous that's coming later. But if you will bear with us, hopefully we'll be able to share some good insights for the FIFA World Cup. So I'd like to introduce the panel first of all. They'll each give you a little bit of a background on themselves, and then we'll spend a few minutes just giving a kind of a primer for everybody about what we're going to be dealing with in terms of this tournament that's coming in about 90 days. So firstly, we have Tim Z from the Arthur Blank Sports and Entertainment Group, William Pate from the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Mark Gaber from Marriott International, the Chief Operating Officer for the U.S. East Coast. So, gentlemen, a few moments about each of you would be great.
Good afternoon, and thank you again for your time. It's a pleasure to be here. Tim Zalaska, President of Arthur Blank Sports and Entertainment, so that's my day in, day out responsibilities are Mercedes-Benz Stadium and the revenue and sales and service across our sports and entertainment properties that include Atlanta Falcons, Atlanta United, soon to be NWSL Atlanta franchise. We have men's and women's TGL golf business as well. So we're ultimately, today, I believe, the busiest 70,000 seat stadium in the world. And so I have the privilege of hosting 8 World Cup matches coming up.
Awesome. I'm William Pate. I'm with the Atlanta Convention and Visitors Bureau. Our job is to get people to the city. We do it with leisure travel, business travel. We're the 4th largest convention center in the country, and we also have a huge sports franchise, not just with professional sports, but also hosting championships. Been with ACVB almost 20 years. I'm a native of Atlanta. I'm the only one you'll meet because everybody here is from somewhere else, so get your picture now. And we're glad to have y'all. Sorry about the weather. This is typical Atlanta weather. We go from 80 degrees to snow to it'll be 80 degrees at the end of the week. So.
And good afternoon, everyone. Mark Gaber, Chief Operations Officer for Marriott International on our U.S. East Coast. My primary responsibilities are overseeing all of our managed portfolio hotels, from premium to luxury in the Eastern region, as well as all of our select and extended stay brands across the entire U.S. So approximately 400 hotels, and certainly very excited to be here to partner with my colleagues here. We obviously house all those great customers who come to Atlanta, and are very excited to talk about how FIFA is looking here for the summer and what that means for the future.
Great. So just in case any of you don't realize what's coming, we have the largest World Cup ever is going to come to our shores in June. For the first time ever, we've got 48 teams that are coming. Last time the World Cup took place in Qatar in 2022, there was 32 teams, and there's still playoffs to come. So 42 of the 48 teams have been selected, but the last week in March, there are 22 teams across the world that are still vying for the final 6 places. This is a massive undertaking, not just for ourselves as a country, but for Mexico and Canada as well. And teams are going to be flying all over the place. And I just want to make sure that as you think about who's coming and where they're going to be staying, there are 11 host cities in the U.S., but there are also many cities that are going to be impacted because they're going to be host for each team. Places like Chattanooga, Tennessee is going to be hosting Spain. Winston-Salem is going to be hosting Germany. Greensboro, North Carolina is going to have Norway. And it's strange because Norway is going to be based there but flying to Boston for 2 of their games. England are going to be based in Kansas City and flying to Houston, New Jersey, and Boston for their games. So there's people going to be crisscrossing the country for weeks on end. And it's not just these host cities that are going to be impacted, but it's also going to be these smaller college towns, particularly where countries are going to be based for their practice facilities. This is very hard to read, but I do encourage everyone to go onto the FIFA website and download this schedule, because it's really important for you, no matter where your market is or where your hotels are, that you understand who's coming and where they're playing. Spain, as I mentioned earlier, are going to be based in Chattanooga for their base, but they're going to be playing 2 of their games here in Atlanta, and there's plenty of other examples like that. So no matter where you are in the country, you're going to be impacted not just by the country where they're based, but also where the fans are coming from. So please, in your research and as you're getting prepared, find this schedule. It's on the FIFA website, and print it out and really understand who the fan base is that's going to be coming to your market. It's also helpful ahead of time, because we'll get into it a little bit about the booking window, which is really a lot shorter than we anticipated. But if you're marketing to countries like Norway or Scotland, who are generally more used to using something like a booking engine like booking.com, you might be better suited using your marketing dollars to focus on those avenues if your customer base is coming from those European countries. So we just wanted to show you the vastness. There's 104 games being played from June 11th to July 19th. So there's a lot of activity across the country that you should all be very much aware of. So let's start with some questions. Maybe Tim, we could start with you.
My pleasure.
For your organization, the impact, what impact has planning for the World Cup had on your organization from the beginning? Because you've had, I think, a much longer road than compared to a lot of people.
Sure. First, it starts with in Atlanta, our host committee is not an artificial entity. It is comprised of contributions from the state and the Congress Center. The gentleman on my left, William, and his team from the ACVB and the city of Atlanta coming together with A&B Sports and Entertainment. So that is our host committee, whether it be World Cup or any of the mega events we try to bring from around the world to Georgia and to Atlanta. And so in such, our folks who have their day job, as an example, at AMBSC, associated with Falcons or United or the stadium, as an example, are spending time in basically 1,300 days ago, well, not quite 1,300, 1,200 and change ago, working with FIFA. And what I think people have to realize when you look at what you're taking on is not only the girth of what you referenced in 48 different countries. So that's 48 different entities that FIFA is trying to provide an A-class experience to. Then it's the 100+ matches you referenced. Then it's the 16 different stadiums in the multiple countries, 3 different countries, all being supported by a temporary staff in the case of FIFA. So in our case, we've got to get a familiarity with those folks to understand what good looks like. What are they really trying to accomplish? Who is the decision maker? We were fortunate last year to be one of the cities that had the Club World Cup. So even though the audience there was club versus country and disproportionately domestic, it was very much gave us a rep with the folks from FIFA as well as FIFA with us. That's a little unique for us in that, like, we'll be hosting the Super Bowl in 2028. We work with the NFL every day. And that's also going to be 2 teams. Hopefully the Atlanta Falcons are 1, but it'll be 2 teams.
And the Patriots.
Right? I don't care who, as long as we're in it. So you ask about the task, if you will, what's it to take on, is not only the girth, but it's also the newness. Right? Everyone you're working with, it's kind of a first time. And you all can go in your own lives, and this is a hotel community. The very first week of opening a hotel, I am sure, is not as operated as efficiently as a year later or 2 years later. So,
and it's been 32 years since we hosted the World Cup last time, and most of us probably weren't in the roles that we were back then.
Very true. Very true. So.
Yeah. William?
Yes, sir. We're involved in basically making sure that people have an easy time getting here, an easy time getting around, and we want to take advantage of the opportunity for folks who have already spent the money to come here. They've already got their hotel rooms and everything, to make sure we get them all around the city so that we spread that economic impact across the metropolitan area. And so we spend a lot of time we're doing 5 languages on our website, which has everything that there is to do across the city. Working with the airport, making sure that when travelers come in, we have good Wayfair signage showing people who aren't from the U.S. how to get around, how to get downtown. Luckily, Atlanta is a very easy city to navigate. But I think it's also important to understand that as important as the international visitors are, we're going to see a lot of domestic visitors that are from the countries that are playing, particularly in the group round. When you think about Capo Verde's got 500,000 expats in the U.S., Uzbekistan's got 75,000, Haiti's got 1.1 million expats leaving in the U.S. So not only are we marketing to the international group, but we're also marketing to folks from that country that are here in the United States. And so, again, our job is a volume job. I always say it's kind of like a parking lot. If you think about Atlanta as a mall, our job is to get everybody to the mall. And then different hotels and everybody will get them into their stores. But we can't start that journey until we get, make sure we have the city completely packed.
Mark, from your perspective.
Sure. So Marriott, we're honored to be the official hotel supporter for the 2026 World Cup, and very excited to be able to do that. And we are partnering with Visa to be able to pass along and reach globally all of those who are interested in the World Cup through our Bonvoy platform and leveraging this on a global stage, because this is, we're going to talk about this, I think, some more, but FIFA is critically important for this year, but this is establishing what these types of events can be into the future. And we certainly have several of these world-type sporting events here in the future, but we've not seen one, as I think Jonathan mentioned, since, what did you say, 1994?
Correct.
Or 2002, I think, was the Salt Lake City Olympics. And so it's been 24 plus years since we've seen the breadth of this type of event come to US, Canada, Mexican soil. So we're very excited from that perspective to ensure that we're creating an experience for all of those who can travel here and those who can watch and experience this streaming or online in their home countries, so they can aspire to come here. And we will be establishing through our Bonvoy Moments platform, I think, some great experiences to do some pop-up things for fans that hopefully we will get announced here very shortly, to again, just really create an experience beyond just a place for people to stay.
So from a big picture perspective, the economic impact, Tim, in your organization and your sector, can you talk a little bit about what you foresee that being over the next, from June 11th onwards?
Sure. I mean, for this audience, obviously you're focused on putting heads in beds and the like, right? So from our perspective, that is important, no doubt, right? The hotel community needs to win on these major events, but we're also looking at this as a global platform for coming to Georgia to show off the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta. Georgia's #1 place to do business. We always have a positive growth in population, a great student center, job center. So when those people come to enjoy those matches, they're also here for extended period of time, given the travel, given the commitment. So our hope is to be working with, and fully expected to work with the Georgia Department of Economic Development, work with the Metro Chamber and their economic development team, Katie Kirkpatrick and the like, and the entity, the countries coming here, and then their private sectors within it. So how, as an example, with Georgia having 2 super shipper ports, how are we showing that off? With our agricultural aspect, how are we showing that off? With our technology sectors, how are we showing that off? So there's a bunch of opportunity for real long-term. William referenced that he was born here, so I'm going to say he was here for the Olympics. Okay, and it was roughly, I've been told, roughly 1 million people. I was not born here, that lived in Atlanta. Today they talk about it being roughly 8 million people in the Olympics, being a catalyst for showing off Atlanta and showing off the greater region as to why so many people and companies started to move here. Our full hope that events like the World Cup, Super Bowl coming, future Final Four coming, all these events become a showcase for Georgia and Atlanta.
Yeah, and it's a whole different way of thinking when you're dealing with a tournament that lasts a month. It's not just a Super Bowl. It's not just a college football championship. You could potentially be having, people coming and staying for an extended period of time and using Atlanta as the base as they travel and see their team playing in other locations. So we all need to kind of get into that mindset and remember that, we as an industry are also promoting the US and each of our individual cities to the outside world. It's a little challenged right now, and we have an opportunity to really send folks home thinking, wow, it is actually a great country, and going to visit is not as scary as they think it might be today. So that's also something I think we should ensure we take away.
Absolutely. No, I was really glad Tim mentioned the Olympics, because this will be the largest sporting events we've held since the Olympics. And we had the Olympics in 1996, and it really put us on the world stage and created a lot of opportunity, as Tim mentioned. And so this is our chance to ascend back to the world stage and really have an opportunity. The Olympics is basically 2 weeks, events every day. It's somewhat very compact. World Cup for us is going to be 4 weeks with time in between. So in the group stage, you've got a couple days between games. We know international visitors particularly like to visit regions. And so, as Tim said, we're trying to make sure we message to folks as they come here. In between games, you can go down to Savannah and you can go to other parts of Georgia if you want to go up to Nashville or other parts of the Southeast. It's very easy to get around. And one of the great values we have is, of course, Delta is headquartered here in Atlanta. They have nonstop flights to every single World Cup destination. So you could house yourself here and just take day trips as your country advances, and then hopefully you make it back to the semifinal here.
And there's various levels and degrees of economic impact, right? There's countries coming using whatever city as a base, there's corporations as sponsors coming, there's press, and then there's the individual traveler who's coming from whatever country. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, Cape Verde, Jordan, Curacao and Uzbekistan have never been to the World Cup before. So there's going to be a tremendous, we hope, a tremendous desire for folks to come and see their teams play. And it's coming in many different forms. And people like the press from these countries. And, when you think about the population of Atlanta today of 8 million people, that's almost twice the size of Ireland in just a city. Right, so it's the volume and the size, I still think is quite foreign to some of these countries as they come and visit us for the first time.
I think one of the residual values of being back on the international stage is you have a chance to promote your city. So I was thinking about the Olympics, and my wife and I were watching the Olympics, and we became infatuated with Cortina. And we're going to make a trip there next year. And I think that's some of what, in the hospitality side of the house, you hope happens, is that we get an opportunity to tell stories about the city, show off the city, and folks that come here will go back and tell their neighbors they had a great time here, and people who watch it on TV will get to see some things and maybe make a trip in the future here.
Yeah, and I'm glad William ended on that, because when you think about, this is putting the U.S., we've all said it already, on stage from a global travel platform, and there'll be 6 million plus people visiting the actual games, going to the games. But the real value is the global reach of almost 6 billion people will have some level of engagement with the World Cup through streaming media platforms and seeing it on TV, which puts Atlanta and all the other host cities on stage and seeing what a great experience their customers are having. There's obvious economic value that will be created for this. We think for our enterprise, we have 30 to 35 basis points in RevPAR lift from a global perspective that will be driven by FIFA. So a huge economic lift during this year, but it's really the big bet is what this is going to do for global exposure for the U.S. and all of these cities for people to want to come and travel, just as William mentioned with his interest in suing Corvina. So all of these things, and it is not just the host cities. I think Jonathan opened up by talking about Greenville, Chattanooga, and all these other ancillary cities where people will naturally expand beyond the host city, even though we have a lot more hotels here today than we probably did 32 years ago, but there's also a lot more people traveling within country and outside of country to come visit.
I'm going to start with you again. Down at that end, what patterns are you seeing? Look, we're all hoping that we see a large influx of international travelers.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, there's some hesitation of international travelers coming. What patterns are you seeing so far in terms of booking windows or demand, that kind of thing, for your portfolio?
Yeah, look, it's, everybody wants it to be amazing, and it is going to be amazing. We feel really good about what we've seen thus far in our booking patterns. I think 25% of our early transient bookings have come from international destinations, which is fantastic. We think that will actually ultimately grow to about 30% of those who actually stay in the US for these FIFA events. And we're right on pace, to be honest, for other similarly large-scale events that occur. Think Super Bowl, think Eras, Taylor Swift tours, and all of those types of events that people are booking for. And we're just now getting into that booking window. It's really 0 to 90 days is the booking pattern for FIFA. And when you think about, there's some stages that we don't even know who the teams are yet. So it's difficult, and we don't even have all the teams fully selected quite yet.
Yeah, Ireland will get there.
Ireland will get there. So we feel really good about what we've seen thus far, given the things that are still yet to come, as far as what countries are going to get in to fill out the full group, and what stages the winners will go to ultimately as well. So we're very positive, very bullish on what we're seeing thus far with the early activity.
William, patterns that you're seeing?
Oh, I'd say very similar. You know, we've been kind of following, you know, the activity. Of course, obviously, one of the important things is the ticket releases.
Right.
Which, you know, kind of are staggered out. Hard for people to make plans until they know for sure they're going to have tickets. You know, again, we feel like we're in an excellent position for the international piece because we, you know, have the busiest, most efficient airport in the world. It's very easy to get here, very easy to get home after you've been here. And we do a lot of international travel. We see 1.3 million international travelers a year. So, you know, we're very used to interacting, understanding cultural differences and things like that. The hotels and restaurants and folks like that have to prepare for. But again, we're not only just relying on the international lift, but we're particularly for the group stage very interested in those, as you said, Capo Verde, Uzbekistan, that have never been to the World Cup before. So many of them already live here in the United States, it's obviously, and many of them are on the East Coast. So it's a very easy trip for them. They can make a shorter window booking once they know they've got tickets. And so, you know, we expect to continue to see the build as we get through the spring. And, you know, we're very comfortable. We're going to have a fantastic experience here in the city.
And you mentioned earlier where you made some efforts to, you know, update your website with different languages and that kind of thing, because at the end of the day, we do need to be aware, right, that there are many people who are nervous or coming or don't quite, you know, speak the language and that kind of thing. So making those allowances and being prepared for the customer base or the different nationalities that may be frequenting your specific market is really a helpful thing for the international customer. Tim, anything that you're seeing trend-wise?
Well, I'll package it differently. When you look at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and our habitual events that we bring, we're the super stadium in Atlanta, and then you don't really have an opportunity to Miami, you know, Charlotte, and then you're going to go far as west Dallas, right? And so when we, on non-Falcon, non-United events, 50% of our attendees come from outside the state of Georgia normally. So there's a natural behavior of what I'll call the Southeastern Corridor to come to attractive events. This is a very attractive series of events. So I fully expect that, you know, given the footprint of where FIFA's playing matches, the Southeastern Corridor is going to come through into the matches, and that'll match up with the international audience. So when it comes to the match window, the demand will be there. The real question, obviously, everyone's looking at is, you know, when will they be coming in? And if you're traveling abroad, or the further you go, the longer most likely you're going to stay. Right. But you know, Delta is both an amazing partner of ours and an amazing partner of the city and the state, and it creates that connectivity to the United States. However, you're also going to have a drive traffic that will come in from the in particular, I would imagine, the Southeastern Corridor.
Yeah, and you know, we're still wrapping our heads around the hotel side of things a little bit. Maybe Mark, we could comment on this, but you know, we all started out being really aggressive and, you know, non-refundable, you know, must be staying for 100 days or whatever, you know, I mean, but as we get into this and seeing some of these trends take place and the whole ticketing process and et cetera, I think we do need to start being a little bit more flexible and both understanding of how all the pieces are working, right, and how the different countries are playing and where they're playing, to ensure that we do capture and maximize the business levels that we're looking for, rather than just putting a blanket, you know, non-refundable, you've got to book $800 per room or else you're just not getting it, because otherwise we could end up as an industry hurting ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we need to be agile and flexible as we're navigating through this. I mean, we've said this several times on this panel. It's been 32 years, so we're going to learn as we go. We're a little bit building the plane as we're flying it right now to see how this is going to play out, which will help us as we have more of these global sport events that will happen over the next 8 years. But I think being agile and flexible to understand what the data is telling us. And we have a lot more data, probably more than we could ever consume or analyze, at our disposal to help with those flexible price terms and things of that nature.
Yeah,
I mean, the other thing that's very clear is it's going to build as you get through the tournament. And we're very lucky in that not only do we have the group stage, but we have 2 knockout rounds in the semifinal. And I think about it like, talk about the Super Bowl. If we were hosting the divisional round and then the championship round and then the Super Bowl in 4 weeks, I mean, it'd be insane. But that's very similar to what we're going to be doing, particularly as we get to the back end of the tournament, where we're going to host the 32 knockout round, the 16 knockout round, and then into the semifinals. So as we move through the tournament, the crowds are going to continue to get larger and larger, and we're going to be ready to handle that.
Been involved in the stadium. How do we as an industry help using the World Cup as a platform for long-term growth? What do you need for these folks to be your partners? How do we learn from this experience from a long-term perspective?
Well, I mean, I think, and you guys do it very well in general, otherwise you wouldn't be in business, but you're listening to your customer. Now, the uniqueness is those 48 countries.
Sure.
And what are the behaviors of those people coming from those countries? What are they going to do in their downtime? What amenities do you have in your local community? What amenities do you have that you prepackage? You referenced Ireland, and I'm going to generically say, they like the game of golf.
A little bit.
Right? And so, what are you, if Ireland makes it and happens to play June 18th in the tournament.
I'll be calling you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just microcosm aspect, what are you offering that shows off that attribute of having golf in your community in conjunction with a place to stay? So this is not a situation of probably just put up, I have a room and mark my price and everything's going to go. People are still going to have to create points of differentiation as to the why, especially as the further you go away from the venue. You're gonna, you might be doing it because if you can add more benefits, you don't have to take down price.
Sure.
People will make decisions to make a choice to do something as long as the value outweighs the cost. Right? And the cost can come in time, cost can come in money. And so how is this audience, how is the collective hoteling community, how are the restaurants, how are we as municipalities looking at who's coming in and what is it that they want? But then also, as best we can, truly understand who they are, okay? Because you might have people that want to conduct business meetings, and so are we asking that question relative to who's coming in and what are their plans, and not plans just from downtime? Right. But there's a lot of people that are buying suites and club seats and other products to entertain people that are important to them, and they're going to want platforms, whether it be the private room, whether it be the meeting room, whether it be, pick your poison. You guys know this in the hoteling business of what the business community wants. So I wouldn't look at it solely as a consumer. I would also make sure I'm very dialed in to the business aspect of it, because there's going to be a lot of business done over the course of the matches played here in Atlanta.
And people may be coming for 10 days, and they're not just going to be playing golf for the whole 10 days. There
Right.
may be periods of time where they have to have conference calls or do work or whatever, that kind of thing. So it's the whole thing, and let's not cut off our nose to spite our face and try to maximize that $800 for 2 days. This is, we're trying to rebuild the reputation of our industry and the country right now. So it's understanding, to your point, is really, and culturally, what countries, what do they do? Do they have meals at later times? Do they do work at different times? The time zone difference? There's a lot of different components that we just need to really put that effort into understanding who they are, so that it makes us attractive as a destination for countries going forward.
Yeah, I mean, people's travels are organized around their passion. I mean, and their passion in this case is football, and their passion for that sport. But to Tim's point, they're going to be here for 10 days, and for this to be a memorable experience, we need to create activities that can make it a full experience and not just about the singular aspect of just football. So that is really what I think we need to be building upon, and it's a very exciting time. Experiential travel, passion around music, culinary, sports, entertainment. This is where the shift is happening in the travel segment, and it needs to be all-encompassing and not just, I'm going to the 2-hour, 3-hour sporting event or concert. It's how are the rest of that 24-hour day filled up so those people go back with having an unbelievable experience that creates lasting memories for them and their families that they want to come back and replicate, whether here or in other cities across the U.S.
One of the last topics is how do we activate and engage our frontline employees and associates as true ambassadors, whether it's aligning staffing, scheduling. The Cape Verde community is huge in the hotel industry, and their country is playing for the first time in the World Cup. Right? How do we harness our employee base, not just in hotels, but other industries, to ensure that it's really a unified message that we're sending? Tim, you want to start, and how you might be doing it with your organization?
Well, you look at as running a business, and there's the internal customer and the external customer. So let's stay on the internal customer here for a second, and I'll let the gentleman to my left talk about the external. I recently had the pleasure of being in Marrakesh, Morocco with my wife, and the Afghan Cup was going on, Morocco versus Senegal. And we were there for 5 days, and you could tell the passion of everyone working in the hotel. And I tried to be nice to everyone I engaged, and by kind of day 3 or 4, the staff actually invited my wife and I to enjoy the match with them. And so, not quite this size of a room, but during the actual match, there was probably 80 to 100 of the hotel staff that had come together to watch the match. The hotel itself had put up the match. They were gifting for their associates. Now they still had a job to do, and I'm sure they figured out, although I'd imagine room service wasn't right on schedule during that window. But my point to it was that they were so invested, right? And so when you're, whether it be us at AMBSC or William at the ACVB, people have a choice to who they work for, who they show up to on Mondays. And if you can create connectivity with them and provide something that they value versus it being a negative, hey, I really want to be out watching Cape Verde for the first time and you're making me come to work, how do you embrace that celebration so that they feel that connectivity, that you care what they care, what you care for what they care about. And that becomes a way to ultimately, when the tournament's over, you've created further connection with your associates, and that will show up in how they treat your customers. And if your associates are taking care of your customers, your finances are going to work out just fine.
I remember I was a banquet houseman at Ritz-Carlton Hotel in 1994 when Ireland beat Italy in the World Cup. And I still remember that day. It was foggy, but I still remember it. The connection that I have with the Ritz-Carlton brand because of how they understood, and even back then, it was they took care of the customers or the employees because they took care of the guests, right? And I think that's a very important factor.
And I think that's important at every single touch point that we talk about, whether it's entering the airport, getting in an Uber or taxi, getting to the hotel. No matter where the experiences are, what do people always talk about when they go home? The best thing that happened and the worst thing that happened. It's spring break week here in Atlanta. And I can tell you that when people get home from spring break, they're going to talk about how nice the beach was. And the next thing they're going to say is, do you know how long I had to wait in security at the airport? That's what, and those are the polar things that people remember. So what we always tell people is, you may make the last impression on somebody before they leave the city. Make sure it's as good as the first impression when they got here.
I think, Tim mentioned this with his experience. It's important for us to remember, we said there's going to be 6 billion engagements related around World Cup, and that will include people who are working in our hotels, in my case. They are just as much a fan as the people who are coming to stay in their hotels. Now, they deal with this all the time. There's special groups that come in-house or keep referring to Taylor Swift, but we've done pop-up activations in the lobby that just create energy and excitement and passion around the event. And that is where at least on the hotel side, our staffs are going to be able to engage and partner with the customers, interact and engage with them, while also ensuring we're meeting their needs. They have a safe and exciting time, but they will be part of it. I mean, they are part of the energy, as everyone I think on this panel has said, and we just need to be able to enable that and ensure it's done in the right way. But absolutely, our associates do this all the time when there's these big events, Super Bowl, national championship games, all the time, and it is part of the memory and the excitement that this event will generate.
Yeah, and it's helping, I'm from Ireland originally, and we travel for our sports, not just, I went to the Champions League final a couple of years ago in Paris with my son, and, you get engaged, and I think it's really important for us to help our customer and our guests to see not only just beyond what the hotel or what the stadium offers, but the whole bigger picture, because it really broadens their horizons, because they're also curious, right? And they want those experiences. It's not just getting the ticket and watching the match. We're about to wrap up here. Let's do a little one takeaway, and maybe Mark, I'll start with you, and who your team is to win the World Cup.
Okay. Look, for me, this is a blueprint of the future of sports and entertainment travel. We really have an opportunity when we think about what's in front of us here for this 4 weeks this summer. That's going to lay the foundation for the 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles, the 2031 Women's World Cup, the 2034 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. We are becoming, for the next 8 years, a big part of the global sports stage, and this is going to be our really first true test of a blueprint for what we can do to create that great experience. So for those next 4 events, people are going to be knocking down the doors to come into country to experience what they either saw their friends, family, colleagues, or they themselves experienced here for these events. The world's going to look different come 2034 for the Salt Lake City Olympics, but the experience is going to be what's going to bring people back and drive forward. So for me and for our enterprise, that's what's very exciting, and its future seems very bright when it comes to that aspect of the business. I guess if you're going to force me to
Yes,
choose
I'm going to force
team,
you. Yep.
And I'm wearing, if you can tell, a USA, so I won't, as much as I would say that would be my choice, and it is my first choice, my second choice I'll have to say Spain.
Okay. William.
They're coming here for 2 games, so that's great. Yeah, I would say for us, it's always about executing flawlessly. We want to make sure that when people get here, they have a fantastic time, and that when they go home, they talk about all the great things that happened to them in Atlanta. We have a wonderful reputation of executing large scale events, both internationally and domestically here in the city. We want to continue that because we're also, as soon as the big event is over, we're looking for the next one. And we want to make sure that we position the city, as we always try to make sure that people understand they can have a great event here. Their customers can have a fantastic time here that's very easy to get in and out. We take good care of people when they're here, and hopefully they'll come back again and again.
And your team?
Since I bring people to the U.S., I'm rooting for the U.S.
I referenced when we opened up, you asked about the complication of this, and I said over 1,300 days. Atlanta and Georgia will be ready. We've had support from the governor, the mayor, the local community, the corporate community. Our collective associates have been fully immersed for that 1,300 plus days. Our natural behavior of welcome home, that southern hospitality, if you will, I am very confident we will show the world that Georgia and Atlanta is an amazing place to come to and participate. From the demand side, I think William said it well before. You're going to feel it as it gets closer and closer and closer and closer, and the certainty in people's lives. Because we're thinking of the variables of a ticket or a hotel. They could have 1,000 things going on in their lives.
Well, there's a few other things happening in the world as well, right?
Sure, geopolitics and all that stuff, no doubt. But I mean, think about your own. When you make a decision on something,
sure.
You could be waiting on a kid's graduation. You could be waiting on someone up from a post-surgery. There's a bazillion different variables that'll make decisions as to why people and when they make the behavior. As going back to what my colleague here said, as we get closer to the World Cup, probably in every city, you're just going to feel it, literally day by day, that pressure, if you will, mounting, and that energy. So I think it's going to be an amazing showcase, and one that those who've had the opportunity to participate in will never forget.
Yep. Your team?
Since the number one country in the world that's playing 2 matches at our stadium was taken, and in our home country, the U.S. was taken, I'm going to go. My mother's maiden name's Mullet, and so she's Irish. So I'm hopeful that the Ireland will get a chance to play in the stadium on June 18th.
Awesome, great. Thank you all so much. My parting gift or my parting words to you is please study the schedule, know who's coming, and care. We are a service industry. Growing up in the service industry, it matters to people how you treat them. And we've got people who are coming to this country who are nervous, but also very excited. It's a tremendous tournament. It's a lot of fun. But let's leave them going home saying, wow, this was an awesome experience. And only we can control that. There's so much we can't control. The visa process, the sentiment, all that kind of thing, that's out of our control. But what is in our control is that we can make people feel comfortable and go home happy. So let's do that as an industry, and let's hope that it's tremendous success. I'm going to go with Holland or the Netherlands. They're in orange, so the Irish flag has got orange in it. They're always a good team, a favorite of mine. I can never pick England on St. Patrick's Day, but they have a good team too. But I'm going to go with the Netherlands as my team for the tournament. So thank you all. It's St. Patrick's Day, so the bar is now open, I guess.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, man. Good job.